right, guys, you knew this was coming. You knew this was coming. We can't build something like this without protecting it, okay? And now you understand that a lot of the assets you've identified are not actually physical. In fact, a vast minority of the assets that you have are physical. Most of them are intangible. They're intellectual, right? The things that you can't see, things that you've created, strategies, tools, all these different things, okay? So when you're automating your business and you're growing it at this rate and at this level, you understand that you are now going to be more exposed. It's just the way it works, right? A business that serves 200 people, or maybe you have 3 different companies now because now you have all these different things that are being delivered and you're serving all these additional people, you will be faced with more risk. Your staff are more empowered, yes, but there's also more employment risk, right? So there's various strategies that you need to deploy along with all the intellectual property components that we discussed as well, okay? So why does this matter? I just kind of gone through it a little bit. Your business will have more risk. That's just the way it goes, okay? It's not something to be afraid of. It's just the reality. That's all it is, right? It's just reality. I am growing my business. I'm serving more people. I am blessed to provide more value to more people, but that also means that I can get sued 100 times more or whatever because now I'm serving more people. It's just the way it goes, right? It doesn't mean that you don't do it. It just means that there's various additional asset protection strategies. When you treat everything you own as a part of your portfolio, that alone will increase your net worth substantially. Because now you're going to review all of your assets in terms of what is it doing for you and what is it performing. And maybe I can diversify. What other opportunities are there? I'm going to acquire this business now. I'm going to pull it into my own under a separate LLC. But now I have more risk. It's just the way it goes, guys, right? We live in California. California does not favor the business owner. Newsflash. And I know you all know that, right? So you have a bigger, the more assets you own, the bigger of a target you have on your back. Because before a lawsuit, the plaintiff's attorney will do an asset search on you. And they will understand everything that you own. They will see it. It's all public record, right? Unless you take specific strategies. So I'm going to teach you to cloak your assets and become invisible. I call it wealth camouflage. Okay, patent pending. Okay. The more you have, the more you're involved in, the more buckets you have, right? When you go to one business to 4, there's more risk. You just have more buckets, right? Now, immensely more profitable, but you just are exposed to more. It's just the way it goes. So also, that's one thing that I want you to take away from this session today is get away from the one business mindset. There are so many businesses that you can, once you deploy these strategies, that you can run multiple businesses, that will actually take you less time to do so. Once you deploy systemization, automation, and you actually have an empowered team to do things for you, right? Now you can, instead of running one business where you're like, 100% of my time is in there. That's because you have a job mindset. This is my job, right? No, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. I have a portfolio of assets, and now I've added 3 more things, etc. Okay? So, but the more you have, the more you're involved in, the bigger your target is on your back. Nobody's going to sue someone that basically isn't worth anything. But if you have a lot of assets and it's all on public record and you haven't done any strategies to remove those from public record, now, unfortunately, you do have a bigger target on your back, okay? So we're going to go through that. So the camouflage from the lizard, that's what I'm going to teach you, okay? So break down on these strategies. Number 1, the more team members you have, the more important it is to have better HR and employment principles adhered to. It could be 1099, it could be W-2 stuff, it could be a mixture of all these things. There's rules here in California for everything, in case you didn't know that, right? So we need a system. It's far more critical when you go from one staff because you're like, I don't want overhead, and all of a sudden now you're looking at it as an entrepreneur, as an investor in your own business, and now you have 10 highly trained, profitable staff and multiple levels of management that runs the business for you, and you come in and lead the team. It is even now more critical that you have sound employment and HR practices, principles in effect, okay? Far more important, okay? So understand that this HR system should be ran by not you. You should not be running this system, okay? You do need to make sure that the system is operating correctly to make sure that all the HR principles, laws, labor law type stuff is adhered to. You don't have to run it yourself. You can outsource this very easily, okay? All right. Number 2, separate your assets from your risk. Don't be afraid of separating your things out. Move them around, right? It's more tax efficient and it will reduce your risk to your assets, right? For example, if you have a corporation and you also have real estate in that corporation that it operates in, and everything is tied in that corporation, do you actually have asset protection? Very little, actually. You have very little asset protection because everything is in one bucket. You need to separate this stuff out. You do not be afraid to use multiple entities. That's what you should be doing, okay? Here's my intellectual properties in this entity. I have my physical assets in this entity, and my corporation is what runs the business. And now I've added another corporation for my licensing and various other strategies are being deployed through this corporation, et cetera, right? Different buckets, so that way when a lawsuit comes in or a demand letter hits, they're threatening you on a business that doesn't have everything. In fact, it has actually very little. Okay, a concept here is to remove your money from where the risk is. Okay, move your money away from where the risk is. Where are you, ask yourself, where are you going to get sued? When you get sued, and you will, it's just a matter of time. We live in California, right? Or there will be some kind of threat, a demand letter, or whatever. And you're going to call your attorney, we're going to handle it for you. But when you get that demand letter, okay, like what is actually in there that they're threatening? Oh, nothing. Nothing. Because I have all my assets all over the place in different holding companies. Okay, that's the whole purpose of a holding company. Okay, you can put anything in holding companies. You can put staff in a holding company. You could put your physical, intangible. You can move things around, and then that where the risk is should not be money, or at least very, very little. Okay, that's strategy number 2. Strategy number 3, wealth camouflage. Make yourself invisible. Okay. Now, when I'm talking invisible, I'm talking about you are not on public record, right? Yes, you are on there, but they're like, I know this guy has stuff, but where is it located? What is the value of this? I don't know. I have no idea, right? There's strategies that you can deploy so that you have removed yourself from public record, okay? There's a whole host of these strategies now that I've been developing very intentionally through great study over the past 8, 10, 12 months to really utilize this more effectively. I'll give you some examples, okay? There you can use out-of-state parent companies to own your company instead of you individually. It takes your name off of the Secretary of State registry, that now you no longer appear as the owner. It's a company, right? Now, not every company can do this. It depends on licensing and various restrictions, but most companies can, right? Where you can have, like, do you think Nissan's shareholders are on their corporation? Heck no, there's like 4 different layers. You'll never find them. They're nowhere. You see what I'm saying? You guys can deploy those strategies too, so that you now can own it anonymously. It's anonymity. Okay, wealth camouflage means hiding what you own. You can put your investments over here. You can put your intellectual property over here. You can use this parent company in Wyoming or Nevada or Delaware or whatever to own your other companies, and this will cloak what you own. Wyoming, and the reason why this works, guys, is because Wyoming doesn't require you to disclose ownership. So you can have a Wyoming LLC that owns your other companies, and all they see as the owner is this Wyoming LLC. Okay? This is a strategy that is very effective. And now, if you do get hauled in front of court, like, Your Honor, I don't own that. I don't own that asset. I actually don't even have any accounts. I have one checking account, and it's a Navy Federal or whatever, right? You see what I'm saying? It is tested, it is effective, and it works. Okay? It's a way to remove your name from public record. Okay, very, very powerful stuff. All these strategies will remove you and make you appear valueless. Okay? Another strategy that I've developed that, again, is incredibly effective is to make your assets, once they find it, appear worthless. Okay? It's another strategy where you actually deploy liens against yourself. Okay? This strategy will make you appear like you're worth nothing. All right? Now, should this be deployed in every situation? No. But it's something for you to understand and be aware of, that if there's a lot of risk, now you can help protect yourself from that risk, okay? The other thing I was gonna say is land trusts. Land trust is another effective tool to be aware of. Not everybody needs it, but a land trust can help cloak or hide your home, okay? It's a revocable trust. The revocable trust is managed by an LLC. And it's also, the beneficiary is also an LLC. And these LLCs are in a state that don't disclose ownership. So now you can put your home in a land trust. No one knows that you own your home. No one will be able to find. This is something that is incredibly powerful. Okay, it's a more advanced strategy though, so lenders aren't as familiar with it. Okay, it's something to just understand that. Okay, by using a land trust, you can hide. People won't even know where you live because it's in a land trust and it's managed by a Wyoming LLC, and Wyoming doesn't disclose ownership. They go to Wyoming, they look at 123 LLC, it will not say who owns it. California, they do. California, they make you disclose ownership. They make, hey, this guy, oh, he's the shareholder. Boom, I got him, right? It shows up a public record, not when you utilize these strategies. And there's also limited partnerships as well, another very powerful strategy that you can use to acquire immense assets, keep your name off record, and basically make yourself bulletproof to litigation, okay? So these are all these very powerful tools that you can use to take your name off the grid, okay? All right. Additional strategies. Your entities need to be bulletproof when you're deploying this because you have more risk, okay? It is no longer acceptable in any way, shape, or form to be out of date, okay? Now, if you're on our maintenance plan, we take care of that for you, right? But make sure that any business entity that you structure, it needs to be 100%. And it's not just the compliance side, guys, okay? It's not just, are my bylaws, my operating agreement, my minutes up to date? You need to be operating this thing correctly. If you're using your business like your personal piggy bank and you're using your business to buy your personal assets, you're now subjecting yourself to what's called an alter ego claim. There's no difference between that business and that owner. They're the same because they're using it like a personal piggy bank, right? Or undercapitalized. If your business is undercapitalized, it's because you don't have enough money in there with the risk. If your debt or your risk or your liability is X, you need to have a certain level of capital in that business. Okay? If you don't, then they're going to allege that you're undercapitalized and it's basically just a shell. Shells provide no protection. Okay? It's basically like the wet paper bag defense. Provides no defense. Okay? So these are the things that the maintenance of the entity, making sure that we're not, commingling funds is another way that your business will get destroyed very easily if you're commingling funds. If you're putting your personal money in there without it being properly documented and all that good stuff, when you put all these personal assets in your business that shouldn't be in there, you're commingling. Okay, you need to be very careful of these things. Okay, this is things that are required for good management and operations of the company. Okay, so make sure entity compliance is huge. Pay your taxes. Just all these kind of normal things. If you're not doing this, your company will fall apart if it's attacked. Okay. The next thing is the IP protection. We talked about this. Scott came up here and told us about trademarks and copyrights and patents and trade secret protection. Make sure you're not subject to insider attack from an employee. Make sure that your secret sauce is actually safe, that if someone found out about it and just gave it to a competitor, started their own business or whatever, that you're not going to be destroyed from within. Okay? Your logo, your trademark, all these various things need to be protected, especially all these strategies that we've been talking about with licensing and monetization, all that stuff. That's all intellectual property, all of it, okay? In case you didn't pick up on that, right? It's a subtle little play, right? Almost everything on that list is intellectual, right? Which you can make immense profit from. But if you're not protecting it with copyright, trademark, and trade secret protection, you're literally just giving it away. You're just giving away your tools and they're not protected whatsoever. Okay, you need to be very careful. Okay, copyright and trademark infringements also is the reverse. Are you pulling things from other people that you have no right to use? Right? Okay, anyone in the marketing sphere knows what I'm talking about, right? Right? You don't have the legal right to use this, and you need to be very careful so that someone doesn't attack you for violating their copyright, okay, etc. Okay, so be very careful with IP protection. All of this, not all of it, but a lot of it is dependent on that, okay? And then using regularly updated business contracts. When it comes to intellectual property, this needs to be in all of your agreements. All of your agreements need intellectual property protection, okay? Service agreements, employment contracts, partnership agreements, 1099 agreements. There are very specific provisions that need to be in there to protect your intellectual property. What I'm creating, what I'm developing is mine, not yours, okay? I have the ability to license this, not you. If you want to use, and especially if you're licensing, okay, especially if you're going to license something, as a much more complicated arrangement, so you need to make sure you're using very, very good contracts, okay? And regularly updated contracts with all the intellectual property should be added, okay? Okay, guys, so that is our asset protection session. I tried to make it extremely, really just kind of hone in on really what you should be thinking about, right? What did we talk about? Entity compliance and all the various, and it's not just maintenance, it's the operations of the company, right? We talked about wealth camouflage, how to make yourself invisible where people cannot find you, or if they do find you, you can use what's called like basically valuation decrease strategies with like that lean strategy where you can make your asset basically look worthless, right? That's a more advanced strategy. Using limited partnerships, land trusts, parent companies is something that is not that, honestly, not that hard to add. Okay, you can use parent companies and cloak everything that you have, separating your assets into different buckets. Do not have too much in your, wherever the risk is. Analyze your business. If I got sued, where would that go? Where would that go? Who would they attack? What entity is exposed? And then you remove as much as possible from that spot, okay? That's moving assets around, okay? Using regularly updated contracts. We just talked about that. Making sure you are very, very strong on the HR side. Very strong. You need to be 100% in compliance with HR and labor laws. Outsource that, okay? Outsource that. You can work with small to big size companies that can take care of that stuff for you, okay? You should not be doing that. Just like you shouldn't be doing your own financials. Don't do your own books, right? So those are the various asset protection strategies that are incredibly important when you are building, when you go from one company to 3 to 4, or you're moving around your assets and now you're leveraging them and you're licensing them. This is extremely important. Where is the business value? You guys now know that a lot of the business value is actually intangible, okay? Yes, you can sell real estate. That is a physical asset, right? But you can also sell your book of business. You can sell your name. You can sell all these legal rights. You can license them. When you're selling your business or you're buying a business, this is where the value most of the time actually is. So now you understand that, you know, like Scott said, he stepped into a business and created millions of dollars of value by really defining and setting up the IP. Because all of a sudden, holy crap, I go from just this little thing over here, now you're adding on all this intellectual property that I can now own, and now it's defined and protected. I mean, the valuation for this business was incredibly benefited, right? So you kind of see there's opportunities here, guys, to find some businesses, scoop them up, and double your business without adding any more clients. Right? Incredible opportunities to do so. So, okay, let's take a quick session. Really focus in on where are the opportunities here, guys, right? This, when it comes to asset protection, it really is about understanding where am I vulnerable. You need to see the risk, and then what strategy, you know, do you want to get more information on? What really should you take a look at? Where am I vulnerable now? Now that I understand that my assets involve a lot more than just my physical stuff, right? So take a look at it. It's all in your workbook. Everything is broken down for you. And I have a cheat sheet for you guys that you guys can get if you'd like. The asset protection cheat sheet is this and much more broken down. So if you like that, you can have that. You can get that. I've created it for you. So that's my, just letting you know that everything that's on the slide here, I have it more broken down in the cheat sheet. You can take a look at it, get more information there. So obviously we can provide that to you. So let's do another quick breakout session, and then we've got one more. We're going to build the plan, okay? You guys are doing great. Let's stick to it. Go ahead and get in groups now. Let's take a couple minutes and go through this assessment on vulnerability. Thanks, guys. I had a great conversation here with you guys, and I wanted to actually address it. Is a few things. Putting it all together, getting ready to implement. When should you separate out things, okay, into its own silo, its own LLC, and then what is the benefit, pros, and cons of doing that, okay? So number one, always start with the end in mind. If you're looking to sell an asset, if you want to build this, scale it, and sell it, or you think, yeah, more than likely that is going to be what I do, I will find, you can use a business broker, you can sell it. It is not a hard process. It's not a hard process to sell a business, okay? You may not get, and then it just comes down to valuation, right? So if your intention is, in 5 years, I want to sell it, then you should separate it immediately, right? Because once it's in your main operating company for a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, it is incredibly difficult to pull that business out, right? You got to redo all the books, obviously all the licensing and all the branding and just everything. It's all in there, and then the valuation is extremely difficult to determine, and so it just takes a lot of time, for your attorney and your accountant and your bookkeeper and everybody else that's involved, insurance and everything else, to pull it apart and then now launch it, right? It's a totally new process. So if your intention is to sell it, for sure you should, I would say, you got to do it right away. You got to do it right away. Even if it's not profitable, great. Then I'll harvest those losses and I'll offset the money that the other company's making, right? Right? You can harvest the losses. It'll flow up to you and you can offset your income.